Ever get that feeling like something's just not right? Like a perfect picture hiding something darker underneath?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that's what draws a lot of us to true crime, you know?
Exactly. And today we're diving into three cases where that facade of normalcy was totally shattered. Each one, honestly, more disturbing than the last.
Yeah, it's the deception that gets me, like peeling back those layers of an onion and finding something rotten in the center.
And our first case goes straight to a nightmare no parent should ever face.
Ah.
We're talking Alicia Owens, 20 years old, accused of poisoning her boyfriend's 18-month-old daughter.
Just awful. And it's not just the age of the victim, but the way it was done. So calculated.
Chilling is the word. Alicia's Google searches alone are bone-chilling. She was looking up household stuff, beauty products, things that could hurt kids. Water beads, batteries, nail polish remover, even searching accidental poisoning deaths.
Like a how-to manual for hurting a child. Really makes you wonder what goes through someone's mind.
And then the autopsy just adds to the horror. Acetone from the nail polish remover was in Iris's blood. Plus, she'd swallowed water beads, button batteries, even a screw. It's baffling.
Points to premeditation, that's for sure. And the big question, why? Jealousy? Some need for control? Or something even darker?
Yet in court, emotionless. Not a flicker of remorse. Makes you question if she even has empathy.
It's tough, though. Gotta remember, people react to stress in different ways. Some shut down completely. But in a case like this, yeah, that detachment is a huge red flag.
It is. And for the family, that poor father. He brought her into their lives. Now he has to live with this unimaginable loss, a burden no one should bear.
Just devastating. Shows how violence ripples outward. Those scars may never heal.
Okay, shifting gears now to a case that's been haunting us for years. The disappearance and death of 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery. Remember, her own father, Adam, is accused, a guy we've called out before on this show. Truly awful individual.
This case, it's a tragedy on so many levels. Losing a child is horrible enough. But then you add in the system failures. The signs were there, abuse, neglect, but she stayed in his custody, then vanished.
And now, his lawyers are trying to split the charges. Assault in one trial, murder in another. Feels like a blatant attempt to game the system.
Happens a lot, unfortunately. When facing multiple serious charges, the defense tries to isolate them, hoping for a better outcome on at least one. We'll see how it plays out here.
But given what he allegedly did, beat Harmony, tried to hide her body, and still no remains found. Hard to imagine anyone believing he's innocent.
Big challenge for the prosecution. They'll need strong evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, even without Harmony's body.
It's a case that weighs on everyone, a reminder of just how much evil exists and how vulnerable children are. Okay, so from a case with so many unanswered questions, let's look at one that at first glance seemed like it had it all. The Jennifer Dulos case. It really captivated everyone, right? Not just the tragic ending, but because it was a glimpse into a world. Well, a world many people only dream of. Wealth, privilege, a beautiful family. But we all know now, appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a reminder that behind that perfect facade, dark secrets can be hiding. Jennifer Dulos, she seemed to have everything, but her marriage was falling apart, and she was terrified of her husband, Fotis.
And those fears, they weren't just paranoia. In the divorce papers, Jennifer actually said she was afraid of it, that he'd retaliate if she left. Just chilling words, and then tragically, they turned out to be true.
It's a tragic example of how dangerous domestic violence can be. We need to take those threats seriously, especially when there's a history of abuse or control.
Right. And then in May 2019, Jennifer disappears. No trace. 5 young kids left behind, and so many unanswered questions. The investigation, it zeroed in on Fotis right away. His actions after Jennifer vanished just made him look even more suspicious.
Totally. Everything he did pointed to a guilty conscience, like he's trying to cover his tracks, trying to get rid of evidence, blood-stained stuff, cleaning supplies dumped in garbage bags along some back road. His alibi was full of holes, and then his girlfriend at the time, Michelle Troconis, she gets pulled in, charged as an accomplice.
And don't forget that police body cam footage. The blood spatter in Jennifer's garage, it was a visual reminder of the violence that probably happened right there in her home.
Yeah, that footage became a key piece of evidence for the prosecution, even though the defense tried to discredit those luminol tests, the ones they used to find the bloodstains.
Right, right. But it wasn't just the forensics. Jennifer's nanny, her testimony was powerful. She gave insights into their relationship, how bad it was getting, and she talked about some strange things happening the day Jennifer disappeared.
Yeah, the nanny's words gave the whole story context. She helped establish a timeline, and her testimony backed up what Jennifer had been saying about Fotis, how unpredictable and dangerous he could be.
And then, completely out of the blue, Fotis commits suicide. He was out on bail, and it left everyone reeling, more questions than answers. People wondered, did he do it to avoid going to trial? Or was there something else going on that we'll never know?
His suicide just added another layer to an already complicated case. Yeah, it really made people question everything.
It did. And now. The focus is on Michelle Troconis. Her trial's in progress. Prosecutors are saying she was in on it, that she helped cover things up, even helped Fotis with a fake alibi.
They're focusing on her presence at crucial moments like when the evidence was being disposed of. They're saying she even helped clean up the crime scene. They're trying to prove she was more than just someone who was there, that she knew it was going on and helped Fotis hide it.
But Michelle's sticking to her story. Says she didn't know anything about Fotis's plan, that she just did what he said because she was scared and trusted him blindly.
The jury's got a tough job ahead of them, weighing all that evidence. Is she a cold, calculating accomplice? Or is she a victim herself, caught up in something she didn't understand?
And the big question, will Michelle take the stand?
Yeah.
If she does, that could change everything. It's her chance to talk directly to the jury, try to convince them she's innocent.
It's risky, though. If she gets on that stand, she's open to cross-examination by the prosecution. They'll be all over her, looking for holes in her story, trying to trip her up.
It's like a real-life courtroom drama, isn't it? Full of twists and turns. But beyond all the legal stuff, at its core, it's just heartbreaking. A reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and the long, hard fight for justice when someone is lost.
It's a case that makes us confront those uncomfortable truths about people. How far will someone go to protect themselves? And how violence affects everyone, not just the direct victims.
From a case that's gripped the nation, let's shift gears to one that's blowing up online. Lots of speculation, armchair detectives at work. The Gypsy Rose Blanchard case.
Yeah. This one takes us into a really complicated world. Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It's a rare mental illness where a caregiver makes up or exaggerates a child's illness for attention or sympathy.
And Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee, she was a master manipulator, convinced everyone, doctors, family, that Gypsy was terminally ill, countless unnecessary medical procedures, wheelchair-bound, feeding tube, all while Dee Dee soaked up the sympathy, the attention.
The deception went on for years. No one suspected a thing. Gypsy, robbed of her childhood, trapped in this web of lies, she became a symbol of how damaging Munchausen by proxy can be.
And then, the twist no one saw coming. Gypsy, she plans Dee Dee's murder, gets her online boyfriend Nicholas Godejohn to help. A desperate act, but in a way it was her trying to break free, to take back her own life.
The case shocked everyone, made them rethink Gypsy's role. Was she a victim finally fighting back, or was she a manipulator herself, playing the system?
The internet, of course, went wild. TikTok, forums, everyone analyzing every detail, debating whether Gypsy was guilty.
And one thing that got people talking was the number of stab wounds Dee Dee had. Nicholas admitted to stabbing her 4 times, but the autopsy showed 17 wounds. That made people wonder, how involved was Gypsy in the actual killing?
Yeah, and then there's that interview with Nicholas. He talks about Gypsy's role in the planning, how she gave him gloves, the weapon, even told him how to avoid leaving fingerprints.
It definitely makes it seem like Gypsy wasn't just going along with it. She was the one driving the plan. It's hard to believe, but after years of abuse, it seems she was capable of planning something like this.
It's a case that really makes you think, doesn't it? About what a victim is, about making choices. We have to confront the nuances of abuse, how complicated human behavior can be.
It reminds us that truth isn't always clear-cut. Even cases that seem straightforward can have so many layers, so much moral ambiguity.
It really does. It stays with you, makes you question everything, truth, manipulation, what justice even means. But before we go too deep into all that, let's head south for a bit. This story, it's less about psychology, more about good old-fashioned scandal, the Alex Murdaugh case. It's got everything a true crime fan could want, right? Wealth, power, murder, and more twists and turns than you can keep up with.
Oh yeah, this one's wild. Like a Southern Gothic novel come to life. You've got this powerful legal family, their dynasty, and it all comes crashing down because of, well, a whole mess of alleged crimes, fraud, murder, you name it.
It's crazy to think just a few years ago, Alex Murdaugh, he had it all, seemingly. Came from this prominent family in South Carolina, generations of lawyers. But then, boom, his wife Maggie and son Paul, found shot to death at their huge estate.
It was a shock to everyone, that's for sure. Put the
Hmm.
Murdaugh family right under the microscope. And as the investigation went on, well, more and more secrets came out, and Alex was at the center of it all.
And it's like every time they thought they hit bottom, there was another layer. The financial stuff, allegedly defrauding clients, stealing millions, the opioid addiction, like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. Just awful smell with each one.
And then the trial. He's found guilty of murdering Maggie and Paul, but even with that, the story doesn't end.
Not even close. His lawyers are now going for a new trial, saying there was misconduct by the court clerk. They've even given her a nickname, Clerk Becky.
Yeah, they're claiming she swayed the jury, pushed them towards a guilty verdict. And why? So she could cash in on a book deal later. It's a pretty bold accusation, gotta give them that. Adds a whole new level of crazy to this already insane story.
So realistically, what are the odds of Alex actually getting a new trial based on this?
Tough to say, honestly. The judge has already said he's going to limit how much they can ask about Clerk Becky. Seems like he's not totally buying the defense's argument. But hey, stranger things have happened, right? Especially in the legal world.
Well, we'll be watching, that's for sure. This case, it never fails to surprise.
Shows the power of true crime, though, doesn't it? We're just drawn to these stories, these dark sides of human nature. The lies, the betrayals. It's fascinating and scary all at the same time.
Speaking of lies and deception, remember that case we talked about earlier? The missing people connected to that online group, the University of Cosmic Intelligence. That one's raising some serious red flags, too.
Yeah, that one's really unsettling. You've got people who might have been drawn into something dangerous, all under the guise of spirituality and finding enlightenment.
It's also strange. People cutting off their families, quitting their jobs, meditating naked, worshiping the sun, polygamous relationships. Sounds like a textbook cult, doesn't it?
It does, but we got to be careful. Can't just throw around the word cult without real evidence. But the circumstances, the disappearances, it's all very concerning. And then there's the group's leader, Rashad Jamal. He's in prison right now, 18 years for child molestation. Adds a whole other layer of creepiness to it all.
Right, and Jamal says he had nothing to do with the disappearances. Says he just runs a YouTube channel with a lot of followers. But the families of the missing people, they don't buy it. They just want answers.
And the fact that these people, they supposedly changed their names, to honor these gods and goddesses they believed in, that's a huge red flag. Shows how much they were willing to give up, cut ties with their old lives. Classic cult behavior.
And then you've got that one statement from Neen Williams, one of the missing people. He told his mom that she wasn't his real mother, just a shell that brought him into the universe. Just chills, man.
Yeah, really disturbing stuff. Like his whole sense of reality had been warped, twisted, probably through manipulation and control. That's how these groups work. Isolate people, make them dependent.
It's awful to think about. These people, including those two young kids, they could be in real danger being abused. The police are asking anyone with information to come forward, and we can only hope they're found safe.
It's a reminder for all of us, to be careful when we're looking for spiritual guidance or just a place to belong. Got to be critical, think for ourselves, and be aware of manipulation, especially in groups that are outside the mainstream.
It's like a thread running through all these cases, isn't it?
Yeah.
Elijah Owens' cruelty, the manipulation in Gypsy's story, the Murdaugh family's alleged deceit, and this potential exploitation with the University of Cosmic Intelligence. It shows us that darkness can hide anywhere, even in places that seem normal. We've got to be aware, be discerning.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up today, it'd be great if our listeners thought about these cases, what they mean, what can we learn, how do we spot the warning signs of abuse, why is it so dangerous to trust blindly? And how can we learn to question what we hear, even if it sounds convincing at first?
Truth is complicated, that's for sure. And even when a case seems simple, there can be so much going on beneath the surface. It's a look into the darker side of humanity, no doubt. But it's also a reminder of how important empathy is and critical thinking, and that we have to keep fighting for justice, especially in a world where lies and deception are everywhere.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's a wrap on another deep dive. If you enjoyed this exploration into real-life mysteries, make sure you subscribe and tell your friends, especially those who love true crime.
And join us next time for another set of captivating cases. We'll be peeling back those layers of truth, uncovering the stories behind the headlines. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe, everyone.